Hello, and welcome to CNET's 2023 election coverage. I'm Jeff Rushton of StateCollege.com, and today we're profiling the race for Center County Treasurer. And with me is the Republican candidate, Justin Behrens. Justin, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
So Justin, to start, can you tell us a little bit about your background and what kind of experiences you would bring to the treasurer position?
Yeah, so first of all, I served in the United States Army for 12 years. Upon serving overseas in Iraq and Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, I felt that, serving in civil service is something that was brought on to me and something that I wanted to do. Upon doing that, I worked as an executive director and CEO of a nonprofit. It ran about a $2.2 million budget. In there, I was responsible for paying bills. I was responsible for making sure that everything was done on time, keeping a balanced ledger, making sure that everything was done correctly when it comes to accounting. Those skills and diligent work and being in the military with honor and integrity, I served over there. I would make an excellent treasurer here in this county.
Why did you decide to run for county treasurer? What appeals to you about that position?
So going back to, like I said before, serving overseas, I saw how things were done in other countries. And I promised myself, we lost a couple of people in my unit overseas, and I promised from that day on that I would make sure that I always give back to the people. If I couldn't serve in the military, I wanted to serve in another capacity to help them through civil service. And so in doing that, I saw that with the treasurer's office, you really can directly reflect and directly help those individuals that are in need. People say, well, the treasurer, what is that? What do they do? And I think it's important to understand that, we may not be able to balance the budget or make determinations on the budget, but we have a way that we can play a factor into helping taxpayers, and that's through investing our general funding correctly, making sure that it's done in the right way, making sure that the licenses are turned out, correctly. And so I feel that I can bring in the leadership skills that I have and the way that I can manage and multitask in different avenues to this office and help clean it up a little bit.
For someone who wasn't very familiar with what a county treasurer does, how would you explain those duties to them?
Yeah, I think it's important to understand that the treasurer's office is probably the front line, right, to the public when it comes to the finance piece of it. And what I mean to the front line of that is if someone's getting a hunting license or someone's getting a dog license or a doe license, they're going to come to the office to get those licenses. And so that means customer service is a vital piece to that whole operation. That means you need to be present, right? You need to be there in the office. You need to show your face. You need to be there to answer those questions. One of I think the important thing too is when it comes to the dog licenses, if your dog, heaven forbid, gets lost or escapes, they're going to call the person that's attached to that dog license, and that usually has a treasurer on there. And so I want to ensure that people get their dogs back, that we answer those questions in good customer service. Now, people say, well, what does that have to do with finances? Well, you pay for those licenses, right? And we need to ensure that with those funds that we get back, that we invest and put those funds in the correct way. The second piece that the treasurer's office does is they make sure that everyone gets their payroll right in the county. And so one of the things I want to implement is that human touch, right? We miss relationships in today's world. We don't do that human nature talking to each other. We always are so fast on the computer or on our cell phones that we don't talk to each other. And I think one little thing you can implement is dropping those checks off to all the different managers across the county and hearing the concerns, right, from the employees about what's going on in the county and being that liaison to the commissioners to help, eliminate some of the problems that are happening on the community or in the county. The other thing too is that there's a general account, right, that comes in with all the funding from all the hotel tax that they collect and everything else. And that money needs to be invested properly. And I think that what I can bring to that is the diverse way of investing within the guidelines that are set up there for the county and what you can invest in. So you can't invest in wild stocks, you can't invest in Bitcoin, but you can invest in, different types of CDs and making sure that everything is returning back to get a higher yield of interest back. And I think that through the diverse way of doing that, I can bring a great platform to this county.
What would you say is the most important role that the county treasurer plays?
I think it's honesty, integrity, and transparency. I know that was three things, but I think that all three of those combined. I did that in the military, right? I was 100% learned about integrity, honesty, and I think that what that means is that you pay your bills on time, right? They expect everyone in this public, as taxpayers, pay your taxes on time. They expect everyone that has hotel tax, pay your hotel tax on time. We have to pay our electric bill on time. The county is no different than that. We should always make sure that we have money in our account and that we spend that money wisely and that we spend that money as a good steward. Taxpayers are struggling today. They're doing everything they can with the interest rates going up, with prices of the grocery store, gas prices going up. People are struggling, and they have to pay tax to the county, right? And hotel tax, and these licenses that they have to pay for. And that's their hard-earned money. And I think that it's important as a county treasurer that you're a good steward of that money and being transparent. I think people need to know where the money's going and how the money is being invested. And I think that one of the things I would love to do is when I get elected in is showing the public, hey, this is where the money's going and this is the yield that we got back from it.
Okay. And how would you go about doing that?
It's all about going out there and talking. So if that means sending out a blurb out to the taxpayer base and out to the public about, hey, here's the monthly quarter of the treasurer's office, I'd love to do that, or an email sent out to everybody, or going on a radio show and talking about that. I think the more transparent and the more communication that you have with people, the less likely you're going to have people being angry, frustrated, or disappointed. I think the most important piece too is to understand that this is not a political race, right? This has nothing to do with Republican versus Democrat. This has to do about representing the people and being a financial steward of the taxpayer dollars. And I think what's important about that piece is that it's about doing the job correctly. And I feel that I can do the job correctly and clean up some of the flaws that are there in the treasurer's office.
What do you see as flaws or things that could be improved?
So I think that the number one thing is making sure that we have money in the accounts before we write checks. I think that's number one, should be the top priority. I think we need to make sure that we instill that we know what's in our bank account before we write that check. I know that when I write my checks for electric, gas, everything like that, that I make sure that I have the money in that account and that we make sure that we have that money in the county too in that account. The second piece to that whole thing is that, we have to be accountable for our actions, right? And I think that there's got to be better communication when it comes to the controller's office, when it comes to the commissioner's office. Again, like I said, we're the front line in the treasurer's office to the customers, which are the taxpayers. And I think it's important that we are always making sure that we have communication and that we're talking together. Because here's the thing, when it comes down to it, Democrat or Republican, it doesn't matter. We need to do what's best for the better of the county to move it in the right direction.
This is a word or phrase that you touched on before, but how important is customer service to the work that the treasurer's office does?
Well, when I served as the executive director for the nonprofit, customer service was the number one thing, right? It's all about, they always say the customer's never wrong, they're always right. Well, it's the same county, same difference in this county. And what that means is that you're going to come to the office, you're going to get, and I'll use an example, you're going to get a license, and there might be a hiccup, right? There might be a problem, there might be something that goes on that's out of our control. It might be on the state level, it might be the mail, whatever it is, right? It's important to understand that customer is coming in, and they're probably at a difficult time in their life, or there's probably something in their life that they need to deal with that is troubling them, and then on top of that, they got to get a license, or whatever it is. And so we want to make sure that we are there, that we always have a smile on our face, and that we answer all the questions promptly and on time. That we always are on there making sure, whether it's right or wrong, or whether it's difficult answers that we have to give to them, being honest and upfront, and then how do we navigate to get the answer solved, right? I don't like always saying no. No is not an answer. There's always a way to find the answer to the problem. So it might not be my office, but I could direct them to the office that they need to go to, or direct them to, hey, that's a federal question, and let me get you to that federal question. I think that's important. When it comes to hotel tax, it's talking to those individuals that owe the hotel tax, keeping good communication so that we can keep those funds and bring them in, and making sure that we keep everything on time.
Right. The treasurer also serves on the county retirement board, which administers a $100 million fund that's obviously very important to current and retired employees. How will your experience and qualities be a benefit to that role?
So again, being an executive director of a nonprofit, we had a staff of over 30 people that I was responsible for their investments, for their retirement fund. And I think what's important is being a good steward of the money that is being invested into those retirement funds. And so when it comes to that and being on that committee, and you're also on the finance committee also for the county too, is that being a good steward. And that means that when that money comes into our general account, and that money has to be invested, that we invest it on good yields and using proper educated decisions. I don't believe in putting money into frivolous accounts or frivolous investments that we don't know what that return is going to be on. Again, people are relying on this investment for their retirement, right? If they served years in our county doing great work, doing whatever department they're in, they expect to have a retirement also out of that. And so they're entrusting us in making good decisions. And I think, again, good communication on that committee, which I'm a great listener. Doesn't matter what party you are, I want to work together as a team to accomplish the best goal for the individuals.
Right. The treasurer works regularly with other elected officials and county staff across county government. How would you describe your approach to collaboration, especially when you might have differing views?
So one thing is I don't believe in shooting off the hip, and I don't believe in knee-jerk reactions. I think the best way to do that is let's sit down and let's talk and let's communicate to each other. And so whether it's the Democrat commissioner or commissioners or it's the anyone that's on the opposing party, I think we need to put our politics aside, right? I think in today's world, too many people are frustrated about the politics fighting against each other and not coming out for the good of the individual. And so let's put our politics aside and let's figure out how can we talk and rationale through the decision. And that means let's troubleshoot, right? Let's think tank and discuss and come up with a solution that works best for the individual and works best for the county. And I think we can do that, and I think that I'm an excellent candidate when it comes to talking like that. I've done it before, I've talked before, I've sat on boards before that I was responsible with people that had totally different spectrums of political sides, that we came out for the best interest, which was helping the homeless and moving them in the right direction. And we did that. We said, hey, listen, I understand your view, you understand my view, but the bottom line is helping the individual move in the right direction. And that's what I want to do here in the Treasurer's office.
Right. We have about 30 seconds left, so I'll give you this opportunity to share anything else you would like to with the voters.
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone that votes, and it's important that you do come out and vote, and that I ask that everyone vote for myself, Justin Behrens, on November 7th, and make sure you come out and vote and spread the word.
Thanks so much, Justin.
Thank you for having me, Jeff.
We've been talking with Justin Behrens, Republican candidate for Center County Treasurer. All candidates in this race have been invited to take part in a CNET interview. Election Day is Tuesday, November 7th, and you can also vote by mail. For more information, contact the Center County Office of Elections or visit centercountyvotes.gov. I'm Jeff Rushton of statecollege.com. Thanks for joining us, and please be sure to vote. Hello, and welcome to CNET's 2023 election coverage. I'm Jeff Rushton of statecollege.com, and today we're profiling the race for Center County Treasurer. And with me is the Democratic incumbent, Colleen Kennedy. Colleen, thanks for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So Colleen, tell us a little bit about your background and what kind of experiences you brought to the Treasurer's office.
Sure. Around 2004, I think it was, I switched from being a music teacher into accounting, went back to school for accounting, and I've been holding accounting positions ever since. I was recruited out of that accounting certificate program to work for the federal government for a few years as an auditor under the Department of Treasury. And I'll tell you, most of the accounting work is done at our controller's office. But what's been really helpful to me is the auditing experience, because it informs my record keeping as far as what is necessary for audit. Also, having to tie audit findings continually to the Code of Federal Regulations. I always want to tie my processes to the law rather than to whatever policy or procedure was in place or that people have done habitually or historically. I always want to make sure I understand why I'm doing things the way that I am.
You know, what appealed to you in the first place about the county treasurer position, and you know, why did you want to run for a second term?
Absolutely. It's fun. I know it sounds kind of weird, but I like numbers. I'm still involved in music, and I bring that up because at previous accounting jobs, you're doing your bookkeeping, you're doing your invoice entry or whatever, and I would find myself with my mind wandering to other things that I could be doing. But I'll tell you, there are two things about this job that I really enjoy. One is that I never find my mind wandering. It's always very interesting. It's always very busy. And I enjoy being able to use my skills to help the community rather than just in a sort of isolated business setting. And I know it sounds kind of corny and maybe trite, but I really enjoy it. One of my favorite things is helping people out, whether it's navigating various laws or helping them meet a deadline or this or that or the other thing. It's just a lot more satisfying.
For someone who might not be familiar with what the county treasurer does, how would you explain, the duties of your office?
Oh, absolutely. There are three main areas. As people might expect, I take care of the county's banking. Most of the county's inflows, receipts come through my office. We process them, we code them, and then that's passed in onto the controller's office for separation of duties. I maintain the county's primary banking relationships. There are some row offices that maintain their own banking. The Recorder of Deeds and the Prothonotary come to mind. They maintain their own accounts. But the the accounts on behalf of the county are the ones that I maintain, and I maintain those banking relationships. The other two main functions that I serve is this office is an agent for the state of Pennsylvania for all sorts of licenses. That's probably how the public knows my office best. Dog licenses, hunting licenses, fishing licenses, and small games of chance license for raffle tickets. And so there's that aspect of it. And then the third aspect that I take care of is the hotel tax. All of that, all of those funds are maintained by me, and most of the funds are returned right back out to the Happy Valley Adventure Bureau with like a small 4% admin fee that stays with the county. So those are the three primary areas. I would say also as part of the banking and financial aspect, I sit on the finance committee, which is just an internal informational committee, but I also sit on the retirement board for the Employees Retirement Fund.
So obviously, your office is in various ways working with many millions of dollars.
Yes.
So, what do you do to ensure accountability and transparency?
This isn't to pawn off the question, but that is primarily the responsibility of the controller's office. So on, say, a month-to-month basis, what's happening is the accounts that I control are those bank statements are passed off to the controller's office for reconciliation. So every month, there's another set of eyeballs on the activity in my accounts. As I said, with the other receipts that come in, we take care of the coding. There's a separation of duties, and those transactions for the receipts are processed in the controller's office. So there's always a separation of duties, and there's always a second set of eyes on all of the work in my office.
Right. Are there any specific areas that in a second term you want to improve, or new projects or initiatives you want to take on in the controller's office?
I'm still working to do modernization. That was my big goal when I was running in 2019. And the thing I'm working on right now, which I hope to actually have done before the end of this year, is to get the hotel tax into a database and develop a payment portal for our hotel taxpayers. Some of them have been clamoring for that. with the modernization process, excuse me, in Center County, you have to balance the modernization with being flexible for all of our community because we have a wide variety of folks here and not everyone has broadband access and things like that. So throughout the modernization, I have to be mindful of keeping things simple for the people who still want to come in to the office and pay by check or cash or whatever. But yeah, so continuing modernization. My office still uses far too many spreadsheets for my liking, so trying to get more of that onto databases. And our controller, Jason Moser, is spearheading a new enterprise resource program. For people who aren't familiar, that's going to be the overarching software that takes care of our finances and also our timekeeping and payroll. And so he and I will be working closely to develop solutions that will integrate what I'm doing with the database development and what's happening with the new finance software that ends up in place.
How important is customer service in the work of the treasurer's office?
It's extremely important. As I mentioned earlier, it's one of my favorite things, is the ability to help people. Being an agent for the state, I feel like my job is to help people as best I can do the right thing and make sure that they're getting their licensing and abiding by the law. I remember when I was working for Department of Treasury, I worked for just a small division, not like the IRS or anything, but our division had always talked about encouraging voluntary compliance. So you always want people, you want to help people do what they're supposed to do. You don't want to say punish them for doing things incorrectly or anything like that. So it's fun. I get to see so many aspects of Center County life, from the odd things that people name their dogs to the wide variety of organizations that are running raffles across the county. I love being able to help people, and I love being able to chat with people. Mike the mailman just came into the office today to pay his hotel tax bill, and he's just a delight. So those kind of interactions, I mean, you can't replace it. That's just it's delightful.
The treasurer also serves on the county retirement board,
Yep.
which administers a $100 million fund
Yep.
that is obviously very important to current and retired employees.
Yep.
How have your experiences and your background been a benefit to that particular role?
Understanding finance is obviously primary. This has been a very difficult time to navigate investments with both the COVID pandemic and shutdowns, supply lines, which you're wondering, how does supply lines affect the retirement board? Well, it's affecting business, it's affecting commerce, it's affecting trade, and all of those things are affecting earnings in the retirement board. Understanding the importance of diversifying, that's something that we did after 2020, when it was such a strange year because everything took a deep dive and then at the end had such a crazy rebound. But we found that there was like an investment type that we were looking into that was, its primary purpose was to protect against downside. So not necessarily high earnings, but high protection. And we found that that fund was not actually as protective as we thought. So in 2021, we undertook to greatly diversify the portfolio and make it a lot more nimble by using a third-party manager for the funds, because we're not able to, on a day-to-day basis, respond to all these market fluctuations. So having it much diversified and having it being able to just make micro changes here and there in the mix of our investments has been a wonderful change. And so being able to understand the various types of risk and exposure has been a tremendous help.
The treasurer obviously has to work with other elected officials and staff across county government.
Yeah.
How would you describe your approach to collaboration, especially when working with people who you may have different viewpoints?
Our viewpoints almost have nothing to do with the work that we do. You may hear this a lot, and when you're in local government, that's sort of the nice thing about doing things locally as opposed to farther up the chain is we're just working with citizens by and large. And we're trying to do the best we can to administer services, to be good stewards of the county's resources. So even in the retirement board, we have our own opinions maybe about what types of investments might be best. But as fiduciaries, that takes a back seat because our primary concern is the safety of the investment to make sure that it's there for years and years to come for our retirees. And the details about maybe our personal preferences for investment strategies, those can be hashed out, but the primary importance is serving our local residents.
Great. We've got about 30 seconds left, so I'll give you this opportunity to share anything else you would like to with the voters.
Yeah, I just, as I said, I adore my job. I love it. I'm looking forward to making more improvements in the office. And I don't have much to add to that, except that, I think my record speaks for itself. We've got high interest earnings. We have a very safe and fully funded retirement fund. And I hope that the residents will see fit to give me another 4 years to continue on that good work.
Great. Well, thanks so much for joining us today, Colleen.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
We've been talking with Colleen Kennedy, the Democratic incumbent candidate for Center County Treasurer. All candidates in this race have been invited to take part in a CNET interview. Election day is Tuesday, November 7th, and you can also vote by mail. For more information, contact the Center County Office of Elections or visit centercountyvotes.gov. I'm Jeff Rushton of statecollege.com. Thanks for joining us, and please be sure to vote.